I don't know, different names. I don't know.
It's branding. It's all branding, right?
Branding, which is Hawkeye's problem, which we'll get into.
Yeah. Mhm.
But call back. No, no, not call back. Call for. I don't even know what to call that. I, put that in there, and it'll go in. I don't know, when physicists go crazy or something.
Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Wordy. We are your hosts. I am Robert.
I'm Billy.
And today we get a very nice one. We have the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye. We're going to talk about this is going to be a new format for these types of shows where we're just going to talk about the first half of the series. It's going to be a little bit shorter. We're just not going to talk about the whole plot. We're just going to talk about the highlights and things that we have questions, concerns, or opinions about. You excited for this series, Billy?
I'm actually very excited. I have a student friend who loves Hawkeye. We should also get Brad on,
Mm,
maybe for like the next time we do this. Who we've been talking about it for a little while, and he's been really excited for it.
mm.
So I've been excited, and I can't wait to see how it turns out because I think it's actually been really good so far. Hawkeye's
Yeah.
definitely an underrated character.
Hmm. And I think
So
he's going to be propelled into a better pedestal, I think. Since he's not going to be like one of the lower Avengers, I think he's going to kind of bring himself up a little bit.
exactly, whatever team he's on, they win.
Hmm.
He's never
Exactly.
been on a losing team.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So, right?
I mean, sometimes he just doesn't participate in the events.
Exactly.
He's not
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. So if he's not on your team or he's not participating, prepare to lose. It's like Tom Brady. He's not on the team, you're not gonna win. Well, we should cut that out. Cut it out. Anyone who's seen
um,
Full House will know that reference.
yeah.
Okay.
So we should just go to episode 1. Episode 1 was basically just an origin story of Kate Bishop and how she became basically not infatuated. I should say it's more like she became uh, amazed by, like she became a fan of Hawkeye.
Yeah, I can't think of the right what's a good question? Obsessed? No, I'm just
Not
kidding.
obsessed.
Yeah,
I think she's just become a fan of
idolized.
Hawkeye. Yeah, idolized. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
She's been idolized by him after seeing what he did in the first Avengers movie.
They
Um,
made him look awesome.
I
Seeing like
mean,
actually him swinging through the window from like the
yeah,
side angle and not like focused on him made it look so much cooler, I think.
mhm,
Right?
yeah. And the first episode basically contained like Kate's like origin of how like her father died and like her mother is now. And by the way, I was kind of surprised that Kate Bishop is rich. I didn't realize that she was rich. I don't really know much about Kate Bishop from the comics, but I didn't
Hmm.
know that she was rich. So that was
I
kind of
didn't
like
have
a surprise to me.
hmm I had no clue either.
Mm.
I was very taken aback.
Yeah. And we kind of get to see the other side of that story where Hawkeye is basically with his family for Christmas going through New York because it's the first Christmas they had together since 5 years ago, since the
Hmm.
blip has happened.
Hmm.
We find out in this episode that he's deaf. And this is actually very comic accurate. He's actually deaf in the comics. So
Oh,
it just
really?
took, yeah, so it just took a while for him to become deaf in the movies.
Hmm.
And it's not by natural deafness, it's because of just all the events of all these different movies he's been in, from like Civil War to the Avengers movies and everything else. He's just lost his ability to hear, pretty
Yeah.
much.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Is it in both years or is it in one? It's both.
I think it's in both, but
Otherwise
I
he would have
think
been able to hear them.
because I think he's like pretty much deaf, but he's hard of hearing in the other ear, and that's why he has a hearing aid.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I find is very interesting that it doesn't affect like his ability to shoot. Like I would think that something like that would be an impairment on him and being able to shoot arrows because like you kind of need balance and like you
Oh,
know
I see.
the stereos like ability to hear all around you and be able to like process your environment and stuff. So I'm kind of surprised that like it doesn't affect him.
Well, if it happened gradually, you might have learned how to gradually overcome it, right?
Probably true.
He's also, I mean, his skills are so beyond reality that you can't really poke holes in it, right? I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, in Avengers 1, he shot like a little pronged thing into like a computer
Hmm.
that needed like 6 or 7 prongs to be exactly in the right position,
Right.
like that from like 40 feet away,
Hmm.
50 feet, whatever it was. So he's the master, right?
Yeah.
Hard of hearing, no hearing. He can hit his target no matter what.
Hmm. And in this episode, we also find out that Kate Bishop's mom is dating Jack Duquesne, who's is also kind of shady-ish kind of guy. Supposed to be in this series.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. At least
Hmm.
from definitely it doesn't seem like he's on the up and up. But he doesn't seem like he's a bad guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. He did
He's just
steal the
kind of
sword.
it's kind of
That's
weird.
gonna yeah. I don't know. He did steal the sword, and then later in that episode, someone I don't know if we want to just say it now. After
Say.
okay, so after the bank scene, um, it's his uncle, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So his uncle. So Kate Bishop goes and she finds his uncle having been stabbed
Hmm.
by a sword, and previously we saw him steal Hawkeye's old sword.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
I think not.
Dang it! You beat me to it. The only reason why that's on my mind is because the Spider-Man trailer thing that he posted or reposted. That thing is
Yeah.
brilliant. Oh my god, so brilliant! Whoever came up with that is a genius. I watched it like 4 times. I showed it to my sister. We watched it 4 more times. uh okay. Anywho, um, I don't know if it's a coincidence.
Hmm.
Could be, could not be. They could have just had those things in the same episode to make us think he did it, but he really didn't.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not really enough to go on. If we took him to court with that, it's not enough to convict him.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well, I
So
actually don't know if it's enough to convict him. I'm not an illegal.
yeah.
I'm a
Um,
physicist by training.
So in this episode, we also see that Jack and his uncle are in this underground black market kind of auction house where they're selling things off the black market, and they sell like the Ronin sword, they sell the Ronin um, suit, basically. I don't know how they got their hands on it, but of course this is the black market, so you can kind of get shady ways into like trying to get stuff from like Avengers compound or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder how it got lost in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I
Right?
mean, it probably got just like it was in the rubble of all the chaos that happened from Endgame. So it probably
That's
like,
amazing.
someone just like found it and it was like they're just gonna take it and like sell it off in the black market. So that's probably how it happened.
Yeah, maybe that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, and then like Kate Bishop takes the Ronin suit. She is shown out in public as being Ronin, and everybody in crime basically is like, "Oh my God, Ronin's back! We now have to like go after this person."
Mhm.
So that's how the episode basically ends: is her like getting attacked by the tracksuit mafia, and
Is that
Hawkeye,
what we're gonna call them?
huh?
The tracksuit. That's what we're gonna call them.
The tracksuit mafia. That's what
Is
their
that their
name.
actual name? I thought that was just like,
No,
oh,
that's the actual name.
this. That's an interesting name to go with.
Yeah,
Okay.
and basically Hawkeye saves her, and that's how episode one basically ends. That's like the rough uh summary of what happened in the episode.
Yeah. She saves a dog. We missed that part.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Oh,
Pete the
I would
dog.
have named the dog Fury. That's just me.
It's because the eye.
I think that's just like an easy. It's not very clever,
Mm-hmm.
but sorry. Okay, continue.
So are there any questions, comments about this episode? I think this was a pretty simple origin story, a pretty simple episode to kind of get into this show with.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I guess maybe worth mentioning is she is a little bit more rebellious. She
Hmm.
did destroy a clock and bell tower
Yep.
all in one.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's about it. She's trained with the bow and arrow. She's trained in martial arts. Martial arts. Yeah, she has all these trophies and
Hmm.
all this stuff. But doesn't seem like she doesn't seem to have any real world experience in that field.
No. And I think Hawkeye is going to kind of help her into this world of being a superhero, I would
Mhm.
say.
Exactly, I think so too. So I'd agree with that as a good summary for the first episode.
Mhm. My question to you is, how did you feel about Rogers the musical? To the big Captain America fan, what's your review of it?
It was hilarious. I love the part when Hawkeye is like, uh, I was there. And you know who wasn't there? Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
I feel like what would be hilarious is if they have in the next Ant-Man movie, if it's going to probably take place after Hawkeye takes place, would be
Mhm.
hilarious is if he calls like the directors, like there's a scene when he calls the directors and he's like, I was there. You should put me in this musical or
Yeah.
something like that. But the music was funny. I can do this all day. How did they get that line? He never said that in front of everyone. That was always like just small groups of people.
Well, maybe somehow, some way, it got like into the public eye. I mean, his whole life is basically in a museum, so it's not gonna be shocking if like his famous catchphrase is going to be like in the museum. So probably someone attributed that and put that into the musical.
That's true. I don't know. It was funny. It was
Mhm.
hilarious. I think it's funny that he's like the main character,
Yeah,
right? What did you think of it?
it was cringy.
I agree. I didn't want
I
to
wouldn't
say
want
it.
to sit in it and watch
I
it. I'm glad that Hawkeye kind of left halfway through because I feel like that's just
I agree. Oh my god, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I thought I had a hard time. Like it was like
don't want to
there's
be
some.
here. I want to leave. This is like I want to see the actual Avengers fight, not like this play. It's kind of like for kids. You know.
Yeah, the way that they portrayed each like the costumes and stuff, it was funny.
Hmm.
Like I feel like Broadway would have done a better job with the attire.
Yeah,
You
maybe
know,
it's off Broadway, like off Broadway.
maybe I don't know. I've never really been to like a full on play before, so
Mhm.
it was funny.
Yeah.
So was Hawkeye? I couldn't tell if Hawkeye was having flashbacks because of like the same reason why Tony Stark had flashbacks in Iron Man 3, just like
Hmm.
flashbacks from the battle, or if it was he was more upset about Black Widow. At first, I thought it was flashbacks, but
Yeah.
then after, I thought it might be Black Widow just based on how the story.
I feel like it's Black Widow because like he basically has like almost like an anxiety attack when he sees Black Widow because he's like, he wished that it was him that died and not her. Um, but I think that just like it takes an emotional toll off someone, and I think that's why he kind of like shut his thing off and just was like in his own space because he didn't want to like he wanted his kids to enjoy it and didn't want his own personal emotions affected, you know?
Yeah, I do like how in these new series they're making all these characters more human
Hmm.
than they were in the movies.
Yeah, giving them an expanded origin story, an expanded look into their lives.
Exactly, because we didn't really know much about Hawkeye. Now we know he's deaf.
Hmm.
He experiences emotions.
Hmm. He's a human being who is flesh and blood. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, we never really saw him emote, really.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw him distraught, kind of. We saw him kind of lose it a little bit, to be honest. in between Infinity War and Endgame, but we never really saw him have like a panic attack. We've
Mhm.
never seen like any superhero really have a panic attack.
Right.
Up until Eternals, we didn't really see any of that type of stuff
Mhm.
in a Marvel movie. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Superhuman, but still human.
Mhm. So, if you were to rate this episode from 1 to 10, what would you rate it as?
Okay, so let me ask you: am I rating it on a scale of 1 to Endgame, or am I rating it on a scale of like just the Marvel TV show series?
Just a Marvel TV show series.
Hmm.
Once we get to the end of the series, we can rate it from 1 to Endgame.
Um, I give it like a solid 8.5. I like it.
I'd
I like
give it
there's
an
some
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. That's pretty good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I do think it's gonna get really good though.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into how it's going to get really good.
Oh yeah. Okay. Episode 2, because I want to hear about
Episode,
this mystery thing.
yeah. So, episode 2, we just kick off where we left off, where they're in the alley and they had to escape the tracksuit mafia. They go back to her place, but of course, they track that she goes there and they're basically like trying to figure out a way to like get the suit and be able to like make sure Hawkeye's trying to make sure that she's out of the way basically because like they're coming after her. And then they torch up her house with the Molotov cocktails and they are able to escape eventually.
Hmm.
Um, Hawkeye and Kate go down Times Square. They see like the other version of Hawkeye and they have this whole conversation about branding, but it turns into a conversation about like idolatry. Is that the word? Or
Ideology.
idolization? Idolization should be the word.
Okay.
It turns into a
Did they see
conversation.
another Hawkeye? It wasn't a Katniss?
Yes, it was Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah. um.
But
Okay.
it turns into this conversation about
Ideology.
idealization. God, I'm gonna try this again.
We're leaving this in.
It turns into a conversation about idolization and how he's basically acting as like a symbol for some people, even though he doesn't feel like it because he's a trained assassin and he became Ronin for 5 years. He doesn't feel like he is a symbol for anybody, and she's trying to basically convince him that he is someone to look up to, you know?
Yeah. Well, because she doesn't know his whole past,
Right.
and at some point, I do feel she's gonna find out. I'm
Mhm.
interested to see what happens when she does.
Right. Um, and then we find out that her family has like a big security company and she's very suspicious about Jack because in the first episode we saw that he had like one of the butterscotches, and since like the uncle was stabbed in the back by a sword and he took a sword from the black market deal and he has a bunch of swords in his collection basically, that's
Mhm.
kind of like the pieces kind of fit together that you might have been involved.
Does she know that he took the sword?
I
I don't
think
know.
so. Or I mean, like he's also a sword collector, so it's not
So
out of the realm of possibility that he used the sword to like stab him.
I like that he went.
Stab, stabby stab.
Anywho.
So she's very suspicious of him. So they're gonna have a dinner later that night to talk about anything that she wants to, basically. And then
Mhm.
she gets a call from the police detective, like, "Hey, your place got torched up," and she's like, "Oh, really?" And it's like, "You're not very upset about that." It's like, "Oh, I am. It's just like, it's okay. Everything's fine. Not trying to provide suspicion." And he's like, "Can you be able to come down?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll come down sometime in the future." Whatever.
Someone
Very
that,
nonchalant kind of conversation.
yeah, not very good under pressure, is she now?
No,
Not a trained spy.
no.
That's good.
So later on, they have the dinner. She's like kind of wanting to confront Jack about like, who he is, his past, being like
Yeah.
confrontational about like, seeing him at the black market auction, about like his uncle and everything else. So she decides to try and do a fencing duel with him because of course she's a very skilled swordsman herself. So she wants to kind of like go after him. But of course, he's also hiddenly skilled as well. And he's like laying her off easily. And
Yeah.
like she's allowed to like touch him, but like he's like, "Oh, you got me!" But like as soon as like the fight's over, like when she tries to take off his head, he's like, "Up!" and like twirls
Yeah.
the sword around. So that's pretty cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So he's a little bit more skilled in swordsmanship than she thinks.
Yeah. Well, I think she knows that, but more than he's willing to let on.
Yeah.
Right.
For some reason, probably to keep something secret from her mom. We don't know
I don't
what.
know. I couldn't tell if it was trying to keep something secret or just kind of wanting to let her win, you know?
Mhm.
I don't know. I just think it's funny whenever it comes up and she says, like, she's trying to prove him wrong, so she tried to stab him in the face.
Mhm.
But she doesn't mention it was like with a fencing thing. So
Yeah.
it's,
So you can't really stab him, but you're gonna like try and like agitate him enough.
yeah, exactly.
And then she kind of sees like he's trying to offer her butterscotch, and it's the same one that's from the apartment that the uncle was killed in. So she's like, "Oh my god!" So she runs off to try and find Hawkeye to be able to like warn him about this stuff with her stepfather going to be eventually because they're gonna get married in the
Yeah.
future. So she finds Clint's phone and he gets purposely captured by the tracksuit mafia because he knows he has to kind of pay his dues for his crimes against them. So he's tied up in a KB Toys, hanging on to like a horse.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's cool that like he was very open to his wife about like, oh, it's the tracksuit mafia, and it's like, oh, those idiots again. Like very open about like the stuff that he's done in his past. So that's pretty cool. I mean, he has been open to her for forever since like we knew of her since Age of Ultron. So it's not a surprise that like he would tell her about like all the people that he's had to deal with in the 5 years since the snap.
They have a very healthy relationship,
Exactly.
which is good.
So he's there and they're like, "Where's Ronan? You should know who Ronan is." And he's like, "I don't know who Ronan is." And it's like, "You were just with Kate Bishop. Like, she probably knows something about it too." And he's like, "I don't know where Kate Bishop is." And all of a sudden, poof,
Now
crashes
he's them.
right through the window. And she's like, got the arrows and they got all the guns. It's like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys were going to have guns." And now she's tied up on the horse. And Billy, who do we see at the end of this episode?
Maya.
Maya Lopez, who is also known as who? She has a superhero name.
Oh, she does?
Mhm. She's getting her own series on Disney Plus.
Do we know her name? Do they say it in the show?
Not yet, no.
Then I have no clue.
She is Echo.
Oh.
So she is the deaf Native American woman in comic books that has like special skills similar to
Interesting.
Daredevil's.
Interesting. So, is she like an anti-hero or is she like a hero?
It's a good question, isn't it? We don't know what she is going to become. She's going to have a Disney Plus series, so she may be an anti-hero, but for right now, she's acting more as a villainous kind of person.
Interesting.
And as soon as I saw the vibrations of the stereo, I'm like, this has to be Echo. And it was.
Interesting. So what are her special abilities? Is it just that she's kind of like
She's skilled in martial arts. She utilizes her deafness to do the same thing, similar to like how Daredevil is blind, so he can use the environment around him. Similar to almost like Makari as well. Makari is able to like sense things around her, the vibrations and
okay?
everything, and it makes her, more tuned. Similar to that with Echo. She's able to do that kind of stuff. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but like the prosthetic leg that she has is her real leg. That's the actress's real leg. That's not like a fake. That's her real leg.
She actually has a prosthetic leg.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
not something that's from the comics. It's an actual prosthetic leg that she has.
wow.
Yeah. So
Good for her
pretty
in the
cool.
sense that like she got the role and everything
Mhm.
with that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mhm. So it seems by the end of this episode that she seems to be like the figurehead,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, but she's not.
No, we're gonna get to that.
Is this the character?
Yes.
Okay.
And Billy doesn't know yet.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, keep going. I got cogs turning in my head. I can smell bacon.
One scene that I forgot to mention before we end this part of the episode 2, the LARPers in the Central Park. That scene.
It
What did you think of that one?
was hilarious, Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's like
It,
this skilled marksman and like skilled assassin. He's like bah, 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 like avoiding all these nerds that are in like in the park just trying to like go after him and stuff.
it's so funny because I was thinking, how would I go about this? I know if I did it, I'd be like running. I'd be like trying to
You'd be
like,
all in it.
yeah, I'd be like all in this thing, trying to like make sure I don't get hit. And he's just walking like casually, like, boop,
Bah.
boop, boop. Yeah.
And then
Dodge.
he
Boom.
sacrifices himself at the end. It's like, fine, you can kill me. Bah, yeah.
Yeah. That was so funny. So that was such a good like
It's a very odd scene to have in a very serious kind of episode.
yeah, I thought it was brilliant though.
Mm,
I liked it. I'm glad
yeah.
that they put it in. I thought it showed a um I don't know, I thought it showed like a different angle of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Because I think he did enjoy it a little bit.
You enjoyed it a little bit. A
I
little
think he
bit.
did a little bit, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Someone who's been through like all the battles, like he could
Mm,
just like no, it was cool. Like he could have like a battle, win easily, and no one actually gets hurt.
hmm
I don't know. I thought he liked it.
So, how would you grade this episode now on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you grade this one?
I probably still say an 8.5 ish, maybe like an 8.6, a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I'd agree. I'd stay with the 8 out of 10 for me. This was kind of like the same-ish. It doesn't accelerate really until this episode
So,
3.
oh yeah, I can't believe we're halfway through.
hmm Episode 3 is kind of where everything kind of gets going a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I find that with the Marvel shows, first few are sometimes a little bit slower.
hmm
Then when it gets good, it gets good.
Yeah, like
Right.
that was my first complaint about like episode 1 and 2. It's like it's a little slow in pace, but it's like not bad, you
So
know?
was WandaVision. To be fair,
Yeah,
WandaVision
one
started very slow.
yeah, and it kind of kicked up, but it also still kind of was slow in its whole like, getting through the story arc, wanting to get through every single decade of television and stuff. So,
Yeah. Anywho,
episode 3,
episode
they're
3.
still at the KB Toys, and
Yes.
now Maya, aka Echo, is now trying to figure out where Ronan is because we see in a flashback in this episode of her origin. She's naturally deaf. She has a prosthetic leg, and she's been treated differently by many people in her life. But her father's like the one guiding person who is like someone who sees beyond her disability and is able to see, the power that she really has, basically. By the
Yeah.
way, not mentioned in the episode, but his name in the comics is Crazy Horse. That's the father's name.
Like actual name.
Yes. Because remember they're Native American, so they'll have like these different type of ancestral names. So he's named Crazy Horse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But we
I mean, it's
see,
kind of a cool name.
yeah,
It's like a superhero name.
almost.
Like a really interesting superhero name. It sounds
Mhm.
like the names that Joko gave all of us in the SPS. you
You
remember
did?
that? Did you ever get one?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Mine, they chose mine when I wasn't there, and it ended up being Delirious Hurricane or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
That's an odd one.
yeah, very much so. Anyhow, back to the
Uh,
show.
so we see that she's very skilled in martial arts, and we
Yes.
also see that as she has grown up, she has her father, Crazy Horse, but she also has an uncle. And you saw that in that scene where, like, her father's gonna go with her uncle somewhere to do something. And you see the guy in the black suit and he pinches the cheek.
Mhm.
That's the character you gotta watch out for. I'll get to who it is in the end of the discussion of this episode because
Just
that's
tell me now.
no, we're gonna leave it on a cliffhanger for Billy. Everybody else is screaming at the screen knowing who it is, but we're gonna leave it for those who may not know or Billy right now.
I wish I was watching this video and not in it, so that way I could just skip to the end.
Yeah.
But don't skip to the end if you're watching this.
Mm.
No,
Uh,
no.
so she's trying to now in the present day
Yeah.
trying to figure out where Ronan is because we saw that Ronan basically killed much of the Tracksuit Mafia, including her father. And what was really interesting about this scene for me is that like he's there and he got killed and like he has like a bloody hand and in the comics she has like a piece like a handprint on her hand on her face like this. It's kind of like
Okay.
painting on there. So
Okay.
like when he like puts
Ah,
his hand on her cheek, it's like reminiscent of that in a way.
interesting. I didn't. I w- this sad. This scene. Oh my god. This scene I thought was very sad
Mhm.
as well. That handprint thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Um.
Because
Sorry,
you
I'm
see
all over the
the other
place here.
side of what happens when Ronan kills a bunch of people. Like there's repercussions of what happens there.
Yeah, but I mean, not only that, it was kind of like I was living in ignorant bliss to what he actually did in that time year gap before
Hmm.
Endgame. Um, because we only really knew him as Hawkeye. Saw
Hmm.
like a 2 minute scene in Endgame, and then he was Hawkeye again.
Right.
I mean, he looked different in Endgame, but
Hmm.
now he looks the same as he did beforehand. He's pretty much the same Hawkeye. We learn a bit more about him, but I didn't like seeing that part of him. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think it goes back to the idolizing part.
Hmm.
Not that Hawkeye was like my favorite character. He was a very cool character,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's like we knew that he didn't do the best of stuff.
Hmm.
If this was real life, he should technically be in jail for many years.
Hmm.
But because it's not, and he's a superhero, we're all like, just look past it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah. Did you like? Would you? Do you think it sullies the way you look at him now,
No,
or are you just
I
gonna
think
try
it
not
just
to think about
I
it?
think it just enhances his character a little bit
Enhance his house up.
because you can kind of see the dichotomy of like who he could be in the right circumstances and the way that he is
Oh, I
as
see.
Hawkeye. Because his worst side is Ronin, but his best side is Hawkeye.
I see. Yeah. Okay. I can live with that.
So in the scene, we have Maya talking to Hawkeye,
Yes.
and she notices that he has a hearing aid. So she tries to talk to him through American Sign Language, and he has a little bit of knowledge about it, but not a lot.
Mhm.
So she has to get her interpreter over to like interpret what she's saying because he doesn't understand a lot,
Yeah.
basic stuff.
I thought that was such a shame. Like, cause
Mm.
they had like once she noticed it was like instant connection.
Right, she can be able to connect, and she even said like you should get rid of the hearing aid. It's gonna impair you to have
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like instantly they shared common ground.
Mhm.
Like, and then it was kind of ruined when he didn't really know sign language as well.
Yeah.
But
So she basically asks him like, "Where's Ronan? Like, I want to know where Ronan is because this is like the person that basically killed her father, and she wants revenge for it." And he's like, he was very clever about this. He was like, "Ronan's dead, and Black Widow killed him," which is
mhm.
technically kind of true.
Yeah,
You know?
it's an interpretation of the truth.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because like he basically his it's kind of like in the similar way to like Star Wars, like Anakin was dead, but it's only because Darth Vader took over as that persona of Anakin.
Yeah.
Kind of the
Wait,
similar way here.
I have a Star Wars question now. And when Anakin comes back at the end, is he a zombie?
No,
Because
no,
Luke kind of brings him back.
yes, but that's because like his good side, the light side, came back to him, not the dark side. So again, it's kind of like that dichotomy where it's like Hawkeye is the good side, Ronan's the bad side.
Mhm.
Ronan existed for a while and then left, and now he is Hawkeye again.
Weird.
Hmm.
Okay. I did think it was very clever when he said that. I was like, ah, I get it.
But then Maya's like, "Oh, how convenient! He's dead, and the person who killed him is also dead. Very convenient."
Yeah. She
So
saw the
she's not
subtle.
happy with that response. So she's gonna leave them there until she finds who Ronan is, because clearly she was like, "Oh yeah, I saw it on the news that Ronan was running around New York." So like, I know that he's not technically dead. So
Mhm. I feel like if the one thing that no one notices is that if he was as good as he really was
mhm,
at what he was doing, he wouldn't be caught on camera, you'd think,
right,
right?
that's how Ronan operates. He's basically like a shadow figure. He doesn't
Yeah,
like lurk out in the open.
exactly. No one seems to take that into account,
Mhm.
which is interesting. Um, I don't know. But
So
Hawkeye was cool when he took on like the gang when he escaped, and Kate was like, "How'd you do that?" And
yeah,
then he had that like really cool fight scene where he shot the bow and arrow and jumping out of the window and it
mhm,
broke the tape. It was pretty cool.
yeah, but also like clips the guy on the ear as
Yeah,
he shot the arrow.
just barely. Do you think he
Mhm.
meant to do that, or do you think he was just solely aiming for the tape and his ear happened to be in the way?
I think it's just by happenstance that the ear was in the way.
Yeah, probably.
But I thought that whole fight scene with him like fist fighting against people, and
Mhm.
then like having him like do the bow and arrow the same way he did like in the back,
Yeah,
really
was cool.
cool.
Yeah, I
But I
agree.
think it was unfortunate that like his hearing aid got smashed in the process.
Yeah, it was interesting to see um, him navigate without it.
Yeah.
Like when they stole the car. So
Hmm.
him and Kate steal the car to leave the toy shop and get away from them.
Right.
And he can't hear Kate the entire time.
Hmm.
And it's just funny to see that like byplay between the two.
Yeah.
When he's like, "You should do this," but she had just said it or something like that. And it's just
Yeah. And she uses the wrong arrows for certain things. And like she'll use the putty arrow and then like she shoots it to the windshield, but it should have been shot to the wheel.
yeah. Or and then she shoots the one that like blows up. And she's like,
Hmm.
"You have more dangerous
Dangerous
arrows."
arrows than that one.
I like my favorite one was when she shot it and it was like the section cup.
Oh yeah.
Just sits there and it's done.
That's very convenient for no reason, but of course it was able to use to like get it onto the subway.
Yeah.
My favorite arrow was the Pym one, the Hank Pym one, the one that
Oh,
can
that,
like, grow larger because
that
obviously
was
the
a good
inspiration from Civil War.
that was a good one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Once I saw that, I was like, ah, man, technology. um, they're a
And
good
then,
team.
yeah. And then we get to a doctor, which basically is going to fix the hearing aid, but so they go back to her place. And then he gets a call, which this is one of the most emotional scenes for me. Just having him like get on the call, think that it's white, but it's actually his son. And like she has to basically interpret for him every single thing that he's trying to say. And it's so hard to like have the pain in his voice, like try and like explain and talk to him without being able to hear him and having that huge disability and disadvantage to not have the hearing aid and be able to hear his son's voice, basically. I thought that
Yeah.
was like a very intense, emotional scene, for me at least.
Yeah. I agree because you don't. We are in the perspective of Hawkeye where we can't hear
Hmm.
how his son sounds, so we
Right.
can't actually hear like the emotion
Hmm.
in his son's voice,
Hmm.
and you can definitely see, like, you can hear the emotion in Hawkeye's voice.
Hmm.
Great acting, by the way.
Very great
Um,
acting. Yeah.
and I agree. It was sad. I really hope he gets home for Christmas.
Hmm.
I really hope he does.
He probably will.
I hope so. I hope
Um,
it's not like last minute Christmas, like 12:50 or 11:59
yeah.
kind of thing.
So after that scene, we go into the stroll of the park, and this is the second reference to this mystery character. If you don't know it, they go down through the park, and basically Hawkeye is going to explain to Kate who the Tracksuit Mafia is. And like, Tracksuit Mafia is just this gang of guys, but then there's Maya, and she's like, oh, that's the head person, right? And it's like, no, there's another guy that's like higher up than Maya. There's a guy that you really don't want to mess with that Hawkeye knows about. And then we also cut to the scene where Maya and the interpreter are talking about, like, what they're going to do because they're trying to move out as quickly as possible. And
Mhm.
she's like, guess who's in charge? Like, I'm in charge. And he's like, well, what about Uncle? The interpreter says. So that's
Mhm.
the third reference to this person.
So they're related as well. The
Sort of.
interpreter.
No, no, like, so I'm going to explain what this means, but like the uncle is not an actual uncle.
Okay.
Okay. It's
Okay.
going to be
Okay.
clear once I start explaining it towards the end. Okay.
Just explain it now.
No. So after we go through the park, basically they go back to Kate's house, the nice, very nice penthouse, where they're going to use the security company to try and figure out the different people there in the Tracksuit Mafia, including the interpreter and Maya, trying to figure out who they are and what the purpose is. Also, she's wanting to still try and figure out who Jack is because she's very suspicious of him. And then we hear
Yes.
like something goes on in the penthouse. Hawkeye goes over to investigate and gets a sword right to his neck.
Held right to
That's
his
how,
neck.
and that's how the episode ends.
I thought that was a great way to end it because it's like perfectly cliffhanger that you
Yeah,
know nothing bad's gonna happen.
right.
You still want to see how he gets out of it.
Hmm.
I thought it was like the perfect cliffhanger.
Exactly.
Um, Tell me who this guy is.
All right. So,
I'm putting my foot down.
so there are several references to this character, including being called Uncle, including if you were very closely paying attention to when Ronan was attacking the Tracksuit Mafia in the flashback, there's a Fat Man's auto repair sign that's on the top of the building. There's several references to this character.
I feel like I know who you're gonna say.
What do you think I'm going to
I
say?
don't want to say it.
So this character has specific ties to
Spider-Man.
Echo
Okay.
in the comics.
Okay.
He actually was the one who killed her father. He also has connections to Spider-Man, yes, but also to Daredevil. He's a very major villain of both of those characters.
Is this person in Into the Spider-Verse?
Yes.
Okay, then I think I might know who you're talking about.
Who is it?
I can't think of his name.
It is Kingpin.
Yes.
Winston Fisk.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just completely glossed over the fact. Wait, Echo's father wasn't.
So Echo's father is Crazy Horse. In the
Yes,
comics, Kingpin kills Crazy Horse. Okay.
but that doesn't see. That's not how the show happens.
No. But remember the pinched cheek guy?
Hmm.
That's probably most definitely Kingpin. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, by the way, the one that appears in the Daredevil show on Netflix. That's the one who is rumored to come back in this series.
Same actor?
Same actor.
So it's going to be connected.
Yes.
Interesting. So that means I need to watch Daredevil now.
Yes. So that guy has been strongly rumored to be the one who is behind it all, who is Uncle, who is the guy higher up, is Kingpin, the legendary king of crime, basically.
This Marvel universe is getting so, as I shake down, it's getting so complicated.
It's very
I love it. But before Disney Plus, I've been caught up to Marvel. I didn't have to worry about not being caught up. Now I got all the Venom movies.
and the
Now I got
X-Men
Daredevil.
movies.
Now this just, oh my god. This is must. This is how it feels. Probably when people stop doing their homework and they fall behind.
Yeah.
I don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
that
god.
is rumored to be the person who is going to come back. We don't know as a confirmation, obviously. There's no official word yet,
Mhm.
but we're like 99% sure.
So
that
then,
he
where does
would.
Yelena?
So my
fit?
theory about Yelena is that I think it's very odd for her to come into the story something like this,
Yeah.
this late in. I think the story has to run its course, and then by the end, like towards the end of the last episode, I feel like she makes an appearance. So my theory is that like whatever happens with this whole story arc gets resolved. Hawkeye is able to go back to his family for Christmas. But as he goes home, he finds that his family is like held captive by Yelena because she's trying to look for him, right? And that's
Ah.
kind of like how the story will kind of resolve itself there. And she'll have to like confront him and be like, "You killed my sister," and he's like, "No, I didn't." And then she's like, I've seen, like, I got told that you were the one who killed my sister, and he's like, "No, she killed herself to sacrifice the soul stone." So there's like that whole explanation that has to happen. So it feels out of place to have Yelena in the episodes like 4, 5, or 6 until
It
the
does.
very end, because I
That
feel
doesn't
like
make
the story
sense.
needs to go first and then have the other story that we know about.
Do you think Hawkeye, though, if that happens, I think Hawkeye blames himself. I think
He
he's not
blames
gonna
himself,
say.
yeah.
I think he's not gonna say that he didn't do it.
I mean, he didn't physically do it. He didn't like push her off. Like he tried to sacrifice
No.
himself and she tried to sacrifice herself, and they're like in this battle of like trying to sacrifice each other.
Yeah, he
And
did like the exact opposite.
she basically like pushed herself off the edge,
Yeah.
so he can explain it away. But I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic when they do interact. Because it's pretty obvious they're going to have to interact at some point.
Do you think there's gonna be a season 2?
I don't know. I feel it'd be very interesting to have a season 2, but I feel like you'd have to give me a good reason why there's going to be a season 2.
The only problem is I feel like that conversation between the two of them. I think the dynamic between the two of them right now would be weird to set up at the end of Black Widow and then just end that confrontation by one conversation at the end of the last episode, you know? I
Well, it
think
could be, let's say it could be the last like 12, 15 minutes of the episode.
I
It
still
gets
feel like that
resolved
would
in.
be quick.
Let's
You
say
know?
it's like an hour episode, and the last like 15 minutes are going to be about Yelena and Clint having to like resolve whatever's
Duke it
happening.
out.
Yeah.
Uh, I trust Marvel.
In Marvel, we trust always.
Exactly. We should design like a symbol, and then at the end of each episode, that will be what pops up. In Marvel, we trust.
So one final other character that I must mention. Jack Duquesne, the guy who has all the swords, he is an actual character in Marvel Comics, also known as the Swordsman, obviously, because he has good swordsmanship and he has a lot of swords.
Yeah,
So
very on the nose there with the name.
yeah, so he's an actual superhero And
Wait, he's a superhero?
yeah, so
Okay.
he's a wannabe Avenger. Let's say it
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Um, but I think that like he is made to be like a red herring in that he feels suspicious. He is being like if the audience is led to believe that he is the murderer of
Mm.
his uncle. And I feel like he's not going to be that. I feel like he's going to become a hero of some sorts. But I think there's going to be like an underlying story with that. Like someone else must have done it and is framing him for doing that. That's why he was specifically being killed by a sword and not like a gun or a knife or something. He got killed by a sword. So someone's trying to connect him with the murder.
This Hawkeye show is introducing a lot of characters.
It is. But so isn't going to No Way Home. No Way Home's going to introduce a lot of characters too. So
Yeah. But I think that's different. I
I
don't
mean,
know
I
why.
feel like every show has introduced a lot of characters. Like Loki did, Falcon and Winter Soldier did,
I
WandaVision did.
That's true. That's very true.
It just seems like there's more impact with some of these characters, like Kingpin, Echo, Swordsman, all these
Yeah.
characters that are kind of more significant than White Vision or Monica Rambeau or U.S. agents, Mobius.
Yeah.
They're not as significant as like Kingpin or Echo.
What's funny is Marvel went a long time without introducing new characters, I feel like, or introducing that many characters.
Hmm.
Like after the first Avengers movie, they didn't really introduce that many until around Civil War.
Yeah.
I mean, they introduced,
Well, not
um,
until Age of Ultron, I should say. Age of Ultron. Age
well,
of
they
Ultron is
introduced
going to hit
a
more.
couple characters there, but other than those ones, I was gonna say besides like Wanda and Vision,
Mhm. And
um,
Quicksilver.
yeah, I was debating whether or not to count that one because it was like they were introduced, but then it was like only in that movie. Either way, they introduced only a few characters there, but they don't really introduce too many going forward. And
Mhm.
then they introduce. I know Guardians of the Galaxy comes out before Civil War, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. This is really becoming a very complicated universe very quickly.
Yes. Just
I
wait
can't wait
until
to
No
see
Way
how
Home.
Spider Man. Yeah, I was gonna say I can't wait to see how Spider Man just completely like flips everything on its head. Right?
It just dumps a lot of other characters onto us.
Literally. But what's weird, but what's great with the timing of this movie is they couldn't have done this movie 4 years ago
No.
because they had all these superheroes on Earth that would have
Mhm.
jumped in and helped Spider Man. It would have been very hard to have this monumental type of Spider Man movie with Iron Man potentially wanting to come and help. Captain
Mhm.
America, like everyone would be like, where are these people? Like, not Falcon, because he's still there. Um,
Thor, Hulk.
Thor, yeah, Thor, Hulk, all these people. Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's still there, but she's off planet.
Mhm.
But they just look everything's everything's done perfectly.
Yeah. So, how would you rate this episode from 1 to 10?
Um, 8.75. How'd
I'd
you
give
say?
it an 8.5. Just
Nice.
slightly higher because I feel like there's going to be a lot more to expect out of this show. So I'm going
Yeah,
to leave a little bit of room to give the nines and 9.5s out.
exactly. And the good thing about this one is I think this one they're actually going to get every single thing that they wanted to in there. No
Mhm.
problem. We're not going to be have to worry about we wanted to put this in, but we didn't have enough
Mhm.
time type of thing. You know. So. Haley
I think,
Steinfeld, actress, right? That's her name.
yes.
Is she in?
Into the Spider Verse, yes.
Yeah, she is. Okay,
She's the Spider Gwen.
okay, because that's how I saw the preview before we started this.
Mm,
So she's two Marvel characters.
yes.
Trippy. Also, the guy who got clipped in the ear.
Hmm.
He looks like I always lose the name. I remember it and then I lose it.
Movie.
Eternals. The
Dane
boyfriend.
Whitman.
What?
Dane Whitman.
Is that the boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a superhero name.
Black Knight.
Thank you. I keep wanting to say Moon.
Oh, Moon Knight. No,
Yeah,
it's not Moon
no,
Knight.
it's not him. I think they look very similar. Is that just me? I think they got the same hair. What?
You're not wrong. I think you're pretty close. I mean, I saw Eternals yesterday, so I can kind of see like the resemblance.
I think they got similar like hair and like facial hair.
Facial features, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Well, that's the review of the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye. I'm very excited to see the next 3 episodes. By then, we'll have seen No Way Home, and we will probably get to Christmas time by that time. So that's going to
Oh
be
yeah.
very exciting. Well, that's the entire episode, guys. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like button down below. And right next to that is also the subscription button, because you know both of those concur really well with us. And please hit the subscription to our Instagram in our bio down below. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.